Welcome to Patriarchy.com, where we help you become a more virtuous leader for your family. I'm Knowland, and on this channel, Daily Patriarchy, answer all your questions in the comments in video form every day. Before we get into today's questions, let's just have a quick update on how the channel is doing, thanks to your support. So we have been live for 8 days now, up to 520 subscribers. If you're enjoying this content, make sure you subscribe, share it with anybody else who would benefit. That really helps to get the message out there. And if you want to look at some more long-form content to help you with specific areas in your marriage, make sure to check out my main channel, Will Knowland at Be Her Leader. Currently 18.1k subs, lots of useful content for you there. So on to today's comments. I'll scroll down to the bottom and then we'll work our way back up, making sure that everyone's questions get answered. So Faithful451 mentions a question before about concerns over his wife being lazy. He says it wasn't so much about exercise specifically, it was more about housework in general. Let's read what his worries are. She made a fuss about ironing my work shirts to the point where I just gave up and did it myself. She acted like I was extremely selfish when I asked her to take over cleaning the bathroom and toilet. We were in a one-bed apartment which I had been living in for years and doing all the stuff myself, like a full clean once a week and changing the bed linen plus working full-time, which is how I was brought up. The laundry is about the only thing she does without complaining about it constantly. I know it's my fault for not clarifying expectations before marriage, but I guess it just didn't occur to me because every woman I knew did this kind of thing for their husband. Like they all do the housework, making him lunch to take to work, etc., etc. She even complains about picking the kids up from school. Like, what am I supposed to do? Drive home from work and pick them up, then go back to work? Her mother is extremely lazy and never does any cleaning or anything unless guests are coming over. Just the complete opposite of how my family was. Right, that sure sounds frustrating. I think there's a couple of things going on here. What actually are your expectations? Have you got the idea that it's supposed to be her doing pretty much all the housework because you are working outside the home? That attitude often causes a lot of problems. It's one of the main contributors to conflict in marriage. Yes, you are working, and overall, you're going to be doing more as the man because you are the man. But remember, ultimately, everything in the household is your responsibility. Now, notice here you specifically said you asked her to start cleaning the bathroom and the toilet. Do you actually want your wife cleaning the toilet? A lot of guys might not want that. So just think about what message you're sending to her because of the tasks you're asking her to do. She's already doing all the laundry, which sounds pretty reasonable to me. So just think about what you want her to do, what you want to delegate to her and why. Talk to her about it. And also you can ask her, what would you need to be able to feel like you can cope with doing a bit more? You can say that you sympathize with the fact that picking up the kids from school is irritating, but it's necessary, and see where the conversation goes. Because just because something's annoying doesn't mean she shouldn't be doing it. So just recognize there's probably a conversation there to have that you haven't been having. A lot of being a good husband is helping your wife to suffer well with the aspects of motherhood that are actually a grind because they are useful for her. You can help her to see them with gratitude so that she can use them to work on her own vices. But yeah, this idea that she's supposed to do all the housework and make you lunch to take to work, where does that end? Kind of ends with you just being an extra kid to take care of, and that's why I'd be really cautious with their attitude. So hopefully that helps. Let me know how it goes. Next one. Rakash asks, I have a question. My son is starting to ask questions about sexuality. He is 8. How should a Christian father answer those at his level? Well, I don't actually know what his level is because there's a big difference in how 8-year-olds grow up these days. Look at his peer group, think about what kinds of things he's being exposed to at school. So rather than giving you a specific set of ideas that I think an 8-year-old should know about, I'm going to give you the advice to actually make sure you stay one step ahead of wherever he's getting his ideas about sexuality from. He needs to have you as his main educator in moral matters, and that includes sexuality. So if he's getting content from elsewhere, whether it's his peer group or from a school curriculum, which you think is exposing him to quite a lot of ideas in this area, you need to make sure that actually you are exposing him to more of those ideas, but in a good way. That way, you can stay ahead of it. You can lead in that area for him. That's the goal. So find out what he's learning about, and then make yourself the most interesting person in his life when it comes to learning about sexual morality. Being a leader is just about having influence. So you want to make sure that you're having the most influence over him in this area of his life. Rakesh also mentions, keep up the good work. Appreciate it. Thanks for following. All right, this sounds pretty frustrating. Been married for 9 years. I tried to implement a lot of what you talk about, but my wife often can't take it. She clams up under stress and under questioning, so the conversations don't go anywhere, and I get increasingly frustrated. Been like this the whole time I have known her, and only recently came across this as a psychological phenomenon called quiet, disorganized woman. It is difficult to know her desires and preferences, and I basically have to guess all the time. Any thoughts? You sound like you have already done a bit of research there into attachment styles. So given that you have classified her as quiet, disorganized, you can look into common approaches to handling women like that. I think in this specific case, when you say that she clams up under stress and under questioning, you want to take a few steps back. What can you do to reduce the stress in her life and make her feel more secure? That's really step one. You're coming in with the questions, even the way you're framing it as her clamming up under questioning sounds like a police interrogation. So there's no amount of questioning or communication skills that can actually make up for a poor underlying emotional connection. Look, she could hop onto ChatGPT and it could give her great questions, right? It could show all the skills, it could use the tools well, but she's got no emotional connection to it, so it won't really do much. First of all, you need to fix the emotional connection with her by having more positive and relaxing experiences. I would start with that first, and then that's actually going to create the conditions for the questioning to be more productive. When you say she can't take it, really think about what? What is it that she can't take? Why can't she take it? Observe patterns and try to make sure that most of your interactions are positive. So one thing I'd really recommend for you and her would be just to have a sit down once a week and think about what some of the highlights of the week have been. What did you really enjoy doing with each other and why? And then double down on that. And over time, that's going to build security and trust. Much better than questioning in the way you're talking about it probably will. Good luck with it. Let me know how it goes. Okay, next question. Jack says, I've been married for almost 2 years and there is still a decent bit of tension and resentment between my wife and parents, mostly my mum. This stems from personality, temperament differences, feelings like my wife can't do anything correct, and adding stress around hosting parents for the weekend. Things are very cordial and polite, but there's a lack of connection and friendship. How do you integrate your wife well into your family? How do you suggest talking with my parents about being more accommodating and comfortable around my wife? Step one with a situation like this is not to assume that the people involved have actually been understood correctly. So what your wife might be interpreting as disrespect or frostiness probably isn't intended that way. So let your mom know how your wife has been feeling, when and in what ways, and then she'll probably be surprised. Then you can talk about what your wife would need to be able to feel better about the situation. So clarify things first. That's really important for being able to make this situation opportunity for actually building rather than breaking people down. Now, you say here that there are feelings like your wife can't do anything correct. Where do you think those come from? And where has she felt them most? And then you could look for opportunities for her to actually feel like she is doing something that your mother can praise her for. So your mom might not be aware that your wife feels like this often, and she might not be aware of how much your wife is actually seeking praise from her mother-in-law. So that's just a basic thing you can fix with better communication here. The personality, the temperament differences. Sure, some people get along together more easily than others do, but once you know what those temperament differences are, you can actually account for them better, and it's really just going to be about empathy, which is the main thing that helps most relationships to succeed. So I think more detail is needed here from both parties to be able to make a success of this. That's your role as the leader. You have to listen to both parties, let them vent, and then lead the way out. But it seems like largely misunderstanding here. And sure, hosting people can be stressful. So you need to make sure with your wife, you're doing your best to be able to lead in that situation too. What would she need from you to make it less stressful for her? This is super important, so take it very seriously. It's part of you being the protector. I know it sounds weird, but having to protect your wife from your mother is a big part of the protector role. In the order of charity, your wife comes above your parents. When she doesn't feel like that, then it actually feels to her as if you're kind of married to your mom in a weird way. You're supposed to be one flesh with your wife. Leave and cleave. So that's what it's about. Good question. I know a lot of people really struggle with that in marriage, and if you make mistakes with it early on, don't correct them, it can build momentum into a big problem later on. So take it very seriously now. Last question from Bruce Wayne. He asks, if a wife ends up not trusting and respecting a husband, then why did she choose him from the start? Well, the simple answer to this is that often the qualities that attract a woman to a man for dating don't actually make the marriage successful in the long run. The man has to actually develop as a man for the long-term success of the marriage. So let me give you a quick example. It might be that she really admires his work ethic and his focus on business in the beginning. But later on, if that same trait never changes and he ends up prioritizing the office over his family life, the thing that attracted her to him can actually be the same thing that makes her lose respect for him and lose trust in him. So don't assume that the thing that got you her is going to keep her for you. As a man, you have to grow, and that's part of the ways in which the work we do in marriage also works on us. So it might seem counterintuitive, but that's just reality. Great. Thanks for the questions today. Looking forward to some more to get into tomorrow. If you've got any questions about leading better in marriage, how to handle emotional conflict, how to build more respect, how to get better intimacy, drop them in the comments and I'll get to them tomorrow. Also, make sure you head over to patriarchy.com/start so you can check out our community where you can dive into this content in more depth and get extra support so you can meet your marriage goals. We're currently at about 250 members, trying to grow it to 300 as a short-term goal. And if you like this, you will love that. You get support calls with me. You also get proven courses to help you build yourself as a leader. You get like-minded men to support you on your journey. And it's all for only $9 a month. So check it out. It'd be great to see your progress in there. Drop your questions in the comments and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.